Israel has a right to defend itself when you have thousands of rockets flying into your territory. But I had a conversation for a while with the Prime Minister of Israel, and I think that my hope is that we'll see this coming to conclusion sooner than later. Thank you.
We've seen in the last week or so sort of escalating violence and tensions between the Israelis and the Palestinians. There's been an exchange of rocket fire, and this essentially started amid tensions over evictions. Israelis were evicting Palestinians, and that drew a lot of pushback from some Democrats here in the U.S. But essentially, there were sort of lingering tensions, and the evictions really triggered sort of an increase in violence. And we've only seen that sort of worsen, I guess, in the last week with an exchange of rocket fire coming from Gaza, from Hamas, the Israelis returning fire. And there's been sort of this, in the US, this sort of, different arguments, essentially, where you have Republicans arguing that Israel has a right to defend itself and that Israel is not really doing anything wrong. You have some on the left who are saying that Israel's response is not really proportionate, and that Palestinians are really sort of being victimized here, and that needs to be kept in mind. And so President Biden and his administration are sort of, taking heat from both sides and trying to figure out what the best way essentially to tamp down the violence and tamp down the tensions are, while still, remaining an ally to Israel, but also sort of advocating for the concerns of the left about the way Palestinians are being treated. So it's certainly sort of a complex and sort of heated topic. But yeah, there are a few signs, I guess, that the tensions are cooling down at this point. So the latest development has been, a number of senators really pushing for Biden and for the White House to explicitly call for a ceasefire as sort of the next step to try and bring an end to the violence and an end to this latest dispute. But the White House has yet to do that explicitly. They've yet to publicly come out and say that. They've essentially kind of made an effort to sort of stay not quite on the sidelines necessarily, but not really be front and center in the middle of this, sort of trying to mediate it. The press secretary today and the national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, they both use these terms talking about quiet, intensive diplomacy. So they've really sort of focused on, sort of remaining behind the scenes and really working behind the scenes, having a lot of calls with high-level officials to try and sort of mitigate this without really publicly coming out and, forcefully calling for a ceasefire or forcefully, putting themselves at the center of this necessarily.
The only way to bring an end to violence, to bring an end to this escalation of violence, is for there to be a two-state solution over time. And it is going to require both parties wanting to engage in that and wanting to have a discussion about the path forward and who would be the point person from this end. We're certainly not quite there yet. It will be up to both parties to decide if they want to move forward on that pathway.